Imagine spending your entire life searching for a mate. Every instinct in your body has led you to this one moment. You finally find the perfect partner, cautiously approach, perform an elaborate courtship ritual that has evolved over millions of years, and successfully mate. But instead of walking away to reproduce again, your reward is horrifying. Your partner turns around and begins eating you alive. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, yet this is a completely real phenomenon that occurs in nature every single day. Across forests, grasslands, deserts, and jungles around the world, certain animals engage in one of evolution's most shocking behaviors, sexual cannibalism. For decades, this bizarre act has fascinated scientists and terrified audiences, but the truth is far more complex than the simple story most people have heard. In fact, many of the things people believe about sexual cannibalism are actually myths, and the real science behind it reveals an evolutionary strategy so ruthless, so efficient, and so fascinating that it completely changes the way we think about survival itself. When most people hear the words sexual cannibalism, one animal immediately comes to mind: the praying mantis. Popular culture has portrayed the female praying mantis as a merciless killer that always decapitates and devours the male after mating. Movies, documentaries, cartoons, and even school textbooks have repeated this story for decades until it became accepted as unquestionable fact. But when biologists began spending thousands of hours observing praying mantises in their natural habitats instead of inside laboratory cages, they discovered something surprising. Females do not always eat the males. In fact, many males survive the encounter completely unharmed. Scientists found that sexual cannibalism depends on many different factors, including the species, the availability of food, the health of the female, environmental conditions, and even how carefully the male approaches. Suddenly, what seemed like a simple act of violence became an incredibly complicated evolutionary puzzle. This raises an obvious question. If there is even a chance that mating could end in death, why would any male willingly take that risk? The answer lies in one of evolution's most important principles. Evolution does not reward individuals for living the longest. It rewards those who leave behind the most successful offspring. From an evolutionary perspective, surviving means very little if you never reproduce. For some species, sacrificing your own life can actually increase the chances that your genes survive into the next generation. This idea may seem completely irrational from a human perspective, but in nature, reproduction is often far more important than individual survival. When a female consumes the male after mating, she gains an enormous source of protein, fats, minerals, and other nutrients that can be invested directly into producing eggs. Scientific studies have shown that females receiving this extra nutrition often produce larger egg sacs, healthier offspring, or a greater number of young. In an extraordinary twist of evolution, the male's own body becomes the final investment in his future descendants. Rather than simply providing sperm, he also provides food that helps ensure his offspring have a better chance of surviving. It is perhaps one of the ultimate examples of parental investment found anywhere in the animal kingdom. But not every male accepts this fate without resistance. Over millions of years, males have evolved astonishing strategies designed to avoid becoming dinner. Some praying mantis males approach females with almost unbelievable caution, freezing whenever the female turns toward them, and moving only when she looks away. Others carefully wait for moments when the female is distracted by feeding or grooming herself before attempting to mate. Every movement becomes a life or death decision, because one mistake can mean immediate death. Researchers have even observed males abandoning courtship entirely if they detect signs that the female is particularly aggressive or hungry. Spiders display even more remarkable survival tactics. In certain species, males choose to mate only when females are shedding their exoskeletons, a brief period during which the females are weak and unable to attack effectively. Other species present the female with a carefully wrapped prey item, known as a nuptial gift. While the female focuses on consuming the gift, the male attempts to mate quickly before escaping. Some males even fake their own death, remaining perfectly motionless after mating until the female loses interest and moves away. These behaviors might sound almost unbelievable, yet each represents millions of years of natural selection, favoring individuals capable of surviving long enough to reproduce again. Perhaps even more fascinating is the discovery that females are not simply evil predators. Their behavior is largely driven by biological necessity rather than aggression. Producing hundreds or even thousands of eggs requires enormous amounts of energy. For many species living in environments where food is scarce or unpredictable, every meal becomes critically important. If a high-protein meal happens to be standing directly in front of them after mating, natural selection may favor females that take advantage of this opportunity. In other words, sexual cannibalism is not an act of cruelty. It is an adaptation shaped by millions of years of evolution under harsh ecological conditions. One of the most surprising discoveries made by researchers is that sexual cannibalism has evolved independently multiple times throughout the animal kingdom. It is found in praying mantises, numerous spider species, scorpions, and several other groups of invertebrates that are only distantly related. This means evolution repeatedly arrived at the same bizarre solution because, under certain environmental conditions, it actually works. Whenever sacrificing one individual increases the reproductive success of another, natural selection can favor behaviors that seem horrifying from a human perspective, but perfectly logical from an evolutionary one. Still, many mysteries remain. Scientists continue to debate why sexual cannibalism occurs frequently in some species while remaining extremely rare in others. Does female hunger play the biggest role? Does male body size matter? Can males somehow predict which females are more likely to attack? Researchers are still uncovering new answers every year, and each discovery reveals just how complex and unpredictable nature truly is. What once appeared to be a simple case of one animal eating another has become one of the most fascinating topics in behavioral ecology. Ultimately, sexual cannibalism reminds us that nature does not operate according to human ideas of morality, fairness, or compassion. There are no villains and no victims, only organisms shaped by countless generations of evolution, each following strategies that maximize the survival of their genes. To us, sacrificing your own life immediately after reproduction seems horrifying beyond imagination. But in the unforgiving world of natural selection, where only successful genes endure, even the most shocking behaviors can become powerful evolutionary strategies. The next time you see a praying mantis or a spider resting quietly in the wild, remember this. Behind that calm appearance may lie one of the most extraordinary, brutal, and fascinating survival strategies ever produced by evolution.